bedfellows, bro. Yeah, crazy bedfellows, family.
Oh yeah. All right. Hey everybody. What is up out there in Radio Land? I'm your host Andy Argo. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WITR. We're online at widerfm.org. As always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may be. Getting a little political talk show. We're gonna, dig underneath the headlines, tell y'all what is really going on, call out the establishment on its BS, and there is a lot of BS to go around this week. Thankfully, I'm joined by my co-host Lawrence to try to parse through all of it. Lawrence, how are you doing today?
Yeah, man. We said for the longest of time that we were going to start doing some more of these segments when I'm not super busy and stuff. So this is a special segment. Obviously, we're gonna do some more of these and put them out on our channel. And y'all, yeah, we're working out some new stuff. And how I'm doing, bro? Bro, I am exhausted. Today's been a long day. Today's been today's been whew, it's been a lot.
hmm Yeah, we're recording this one from home. I'm not live there in the studio. I have to go help run my family some medical appointments. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, we're not using video because it is 100. The heat index is 101 out. I'm not wearing a shirt. I'm not. I'm not going to. It is
Yeah,
hot.
yeah. It
Really
is
feeling the
hot.
climate change today.
Yeah, it's hot and we're not in the air conditioned studio. So, hey, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to hit on a couple of stories, kind of, again, starting here in the Mitten and in the Kalamazoo, and there's actually a really big update, some news, and it's almost kind of buried a little bit deeper in the headline, but this is following up to a story we covered several weeks ago, and most of my our listeners probably know. Um, the Christopher Schurr, the officer who shot and killed Patrick Lyoya, got off out of a mistrial that happened in Grand Rapids. But that story has not necessarily concluded. I'm reading from a piece from WWMT. It was published on June 20th by Stephanie Forth. But the civil trial against former GRPD officer Christopher Schurr is going to take place in Kalamazoo. It's expected the civil trial is expected to go start in October of 2026. And Loyola's family argues again that Patrick Loyola was not armed and sure admitted that Patrick never threatened or hit him. Along with the Fourth Amendment violations, the Loyola family is accusing Schur of gross negligence in his role as police officer, as well as willful and wanton misconduct, according to court documents. And going on, they talk a little bit about some of the context of the case. We've gone in on that in previous episodes. I know, Lawrence, we haven't even really. I think again, you've had our schedules just haven't aligned well for the show. We haven't. I don't think I've actually had you on since this happened. Um, I was kind of your thoughts on the Patrick Lyoya case, and for those who are kind of confused about the difference between a civil trial and a criminal court case. So the civil trial, this does not mean that Christopher Schurr could necessarily be seeking, or not seeking, but facing jail time, but he will be facing potential financial penalties from the family. So yeah, Lawrence. So Lawrence, again, I don't think we've had you on since this happened, and I don't know if we've really been able to get your reaction to it. Again,
I
big
mean,
story a couple weeks ago with a very local twist that we're seeing just now.
I mean, dog, to keep it all the way real, um, am I surprised? No. Most police officers that are involved in these type of situations, um, uh, they're they get away. They get away with it. I mean, dog, he shot a man in the back of the head. He was wrestling with a guy, and he shot him in the back of the head, and he feared for his life because allegedly Patrick grabbed his taser, right? That's the story. That story that, if I remember correctly, how a man is a threat to you and he's face down on the ground and he's a threat to you baffles my mind. Um, as someone who used to wrestle, as someone who wrestled for a very long time, done combat sports, if someone's if you have someone's head, if their head, the back of their head is where your face is, or you can see the back of their head, and you're on top of them, you usually have control at that point, unless I'm missing something. Like, 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 was he John Wick? Was Patrick Rahoya John Wick? Was he gonna flip over and grab a pencil or something? Like, no, like
Yeah.
it's I don't like the fact that the encounter happened. I don't like the fact that it escalated to the point where it did. But that man didn't deserve to have his life taken away from him in the way that it was done. That it happened. And that police officer should be arrested. If if you if you believe that the police officer shouldn't get tried or should or like if you believe that that was standard procedure or if you believe that that police officer was in fear for your life, I would love for you to wrestle with someone where your face is on the ground and you come up with a scenario while wrestling with someone where you can fatally harm them. Because if I remember correctly, he didn't have a weapon.
That is correct.
Unless
He did not.
it, right. So an unarmed man whose face is to the ground gets shot in the back of the head, but he was a threat.
Something I go
Nah,
back
dog.
to whenever we talk about one of these cases on the show, and I know I kind of sound like a broken record on this, but I have I have a lot of experience working in healthcare, particularly among populations with mental or developmental disabilities, and I've been in these kind of high risk settings where you are trained how to peacefully de-escalate a situation, even when somebody is armed with an object or a knife or something like that. And what I always emphasize why I bring that up is because I don't, one, I don't think I've ever made as much as a police officer working those gigs, but to understand when you are a public service or you're serving the public in some capacity, be that like a healthcare worker, there's an expectation that you are going to go above and beyond to de-escalate and end situations non-violently. What we often see is this double standard where the police officer will escalate the situation, will use lethal force when it was neither required nor appropriate, and then step back and say, I feared for my life. Now, let's be absolutely clear. If someone like me in a similar position had made that kind of decision, I would have been fired. I would have been blacklisted from the medical profession and probably also in prison. However,
Yeah,
there is this double standard with police officers who think they are, among other quote unquote public servants, are you have the unique right to exercise legal force over the populations they're ostensibly being charged to protect.
Yeah, for some reason, like, look, and again, I want to give grace, and when I say give grace, I mean I want to, I want to be fair, right? A, that police officer was probably was would be upset. I'm trying to talk to somebody, they don't want to talk to me. Um, they're being they said something crazy to me, and now I'm upset, right? I'm trying to humanize the police as much as humanly possible when it comes to the type of work they gotta do. Because I'm also in social work, like we both are, right? We didn't have people cuss us out, right?
Oh yeah.
And be hostile with us, right? Like I understand it, I get it. And also, we're not ordained by the state to take a life, right? Again, understand, I get it. And I get that their job is stressful, that police officers got to also be social workers as well, because you're dealing with people at sometimes on the worst days of their lives, right? I get it, right? However, if you already have this man's address, you already know who you're looking for, you already know you stop this man, and even if in worst case scenario, right? Let's say he doesn't wrestle with that young man, the man starts to run away. You have a walkie-talkie. You could be like, "Hey, yo, the person that I'm trying to talk to, they're running down blankety blank street. I need backup. I'm in pursuit," right? You could get more people to come and stop him, right? You don't have to escalate that situation. There's other ways where you could de-escalate it, or try to bring them in calmly, or at least alive, right? He didn't get that choice. Patrick doesn't
That's
get any of that. Patrick did not get any of that grace. Patrick got talked to, things escalated, and then he caught a bullet. And then he got a bullet because the cop decided that, even in his scenario, he was like, I was reaching for my taser, but I accidentally grabbed my gun. If that's his excuse. Or if the excuse was, hey, Patrick was grabbing my taser, which we all know is a non-lethal weapon, right? It's a non-lethal weapon, but he's gonna lethally kill me with my taser, so I had to pull my gun. Even in that scenario, that's garbage. That's a garbage excuse. Like, even then. Like, nah, bro. Nah, like, it didn't have to go down like that. And I hope that that officer is found guilty.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so again, the biggest piece to this news is that it's being moved down to Kalamazoo. Now, in the article that I read from, it didn't go too deeply into the circumstances of why, but we can speculate that it was likely because of a request from, the party, presenting the suit. So that i.e. the Lyoya family. So I'm kind of curious, again, we talked a lot about the political dynamics of this mistrial. Um, and how, again, Kent County is a fairly conservative county, where the original criminal trial was brought forth. The fact that the civil trial is going to be held in Kalamazoo, which tends to be a little bit more kind of left leaning, liberal leaning in its politics, it does open up the question: is it going to be more likely that the family will have some sort of success in the civil trial that maybe they did not find in the criminal case that they brought forward? And also, obviously, we can assume that it is likely that they will seek a jury trial. Not all civil cases necessarily have a jury, but that is something that again everybody in this country has the right to request. I'm kind of thinking through the dynamics of, how is this going to play out in Kalamazoo differently than it would in Grand Rapids. Um, Now, again, it is also, at the discretion of the defense team to, kind of, again, there's the jury selection process and all that. But um, I would say that they do have some different dynamics going on here in Kalamazoo that they may not necessarily have up in Grand Rapids. And I think again that is a larger population, especially in the Kalamazoo city, that is a little bit more critical of how police conduct themselves. There's not as much of that kind of Blue Lives Matter kind of conservative element, which is again is very prevalent still among Kalamazoo's working class, but we have seen, especially in situations in the past where there have been these big scandals or upsets about how the Kalamazoo Public Safety Department has conducted itself. There is a really big pushback and criticism. Not to say, of course, there wasn't a huge upswell in Grand Rapids, but at least demographically, I think there is more of a base of people who are kind of critical of police conduct. Lawrence, what are some of your thoughts? I know you're
I
actually
mean,
you're probably a little bit more of an expert on this issue than I am, but
well, there's community groups like CCJT, campaign for uh for criminal justice transparency. Like, so shout out to them. I'm a part of that because of my job. They do work with law enforcement about and advocate for transparency in our community. They have meetings. They try their best to uh hold the police accountable and also have dialogue in the community between uh law enforcement and us, right? To try to get as much honesty and transparency with law enforcement. So I salute to those organizers and activists. Same thing with ALPAC. ALPAC also tries to work with community with law enforcement and community activists and organizers so that there's much more clarity on and also shout out to people like the Kalamazoo Defenders, right? They like there's a number of organizations in Kalamazoo where they're trying to do their best to not hinder the police officers in their jobs, but they're also trying to protect and communicate and also just have honest dialogue and understanding between the Kalamazoo citizens and law enforcement. So there's a number of activists and organizers out here that are in the community doing good work. And there are, and I have to say, uh, that law enforcement in Kalamazoo has gotten better. You know what I'm saying? I will have to say that it has gotten better. It's not like how it was 10 or 20 years ago, where it was bad out here. You know what I'm saying? It was
oh
there was
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of there was a lot of cases where racial profiling and other things that was going on, or people feel the community feeling like their voices were not being heard, and that law enforcement was feeling more like that certain neighborhoods was feeling more like occupied territory than actual communities, right? And they did
By
not
the
feel
way, that
safe.
is borne out by. There's a study about 10 years ago that basically showed that at the time KDPS had more institutional racial bias than Ferguson,
Yeah.
Missouri at the time. Of
Yeah,
course, where
I think if I
operating
remember correctly, that was
in here.
2000. It was either it was between 2012 and 2014, if I remember correctly. We'll have the study. We'll have the study in the doobly doo below in the description below if y'all wanna read it. I've actually talked to certain law enforcement about that study. Uh, Obviously, some of their opinions were that they did not agree with it. As a North Side resident, who's lived on the North Side, I also understand because I've had family members and other community members be like, nah, we lived through that. Yeah, like, and and I feel like so this is a little bit so this is a little bit off topic. I I do feel like in certain places there's a greater sense of engagement with community and with law enforcement and things of that nature, like Kalamazoo. And I also understand that some of my friends and family who live in Kentwood and Grand Rapids, they're like, nah, they don't feel the same way, right? Even when we think about the response to this, right? To this shooting. Like it's crazy that they have to file their civil suit here in Kalamazoo when the incident happened in Grand Rapids, right? Like it's that is wild, man. It's absolutely wild. Um, I hope that that family gets justice. I mean I can't say I don't know if I trust the system that they will actually get justice, right? But I hope and pray that they do.
Yes, at least, whatever justice they can, it was really hard for our comrades, up in Grand Rapids, responding to, um, again, the mistrial. And we talked about it on the show at the time. We'll link to some articles below that responded to it directly.
That
But
yeah, that like it just feels like even when it's caught on camera, right? You like yeah, it's caught on camera. They were struggling with each other. They were struggling with each other. But Pat but up to the leading of the shooting, Patrick still has his face down to the ground. Patrick still has his face down to the ground, even whatever is led up to. There is no reason. There is no reason why he needed to pull his gun out at that time. There was none. Like, if in my opinion, I'm not in law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? I understand that certain people who are in law enforcement is definitely going to disagree. I understand that, but this would be a totally different conversation if he didn't pull if that officer did not pull his trigger, did not pull that gun. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
yeah,
But
absolutely. Um,
but yeah.
I'd say with that, any other thoughts on this issue before we move on to the next
Um
thing we're going to talk about here?
I mean, hey, so I do know that law enforcement does have KDPS does have their community um their community conversations, I think once a month or once a month or a couple times a quarter, right? And they usually hold those meetings out on the south side at their police station on the south side, right? On Lake Street, if I remember correctly, right? Like if you feel like you're not being heard, or if you feel like uh you don't you're not being heard, there's not um you feel like there's been some injustice going on, if you feel like there's stuff that's going on in the city, especially with law enforcement, go there, say it to their face. Like go and say it. Go and say it to their face. Go to those community meetings. Go to the city meetings on Monday, right? To the county meetings. Make your voice be heard. Uh uh if you feel like something's not being addressed, it's I know that they have a transparency page. I know that the KDPS has a transparency page on their website. of all the things that they are doing. They have they have a thing up there about ICE, right? And how they do not participate in ICE raids and things of that nature. They have a whole policy about that. Like, go read what their stances are, what their policies are, and how you feel about how it's been implemented in Kalamazoo. Go and talk to them. Go and talk to the chiefs. Go and do that. Because the only way for community members, or for us as a community, to feel like our voices are being heard by people who protect and serve our community, is to hold them accountable. But one way that we also hold them accountable outside of just at the ballot box is by having these conversations to their faces and have them recorded. Have them recorded. Have it be public.
With that, I wanted to do a quick hit. This is a follow-up to a story that we were reporting on last spring, which it was a bit of unfortunate news. Um, a great community organization. I've done some work with before in my role as like kind of a tenants organizer, Housing Resources, and they were trying to basically create this pod community project of these like small pod houses to try to address the housing crisis and the crisis of houselessness here in the city of Kalamazoo. And as we talked about, there was a lot of NIMBYism. There were some structural barriers that prevented this program from really going forward, which was it was it was tremendous loss to the community because it was not just plopping down 50 tiny houses and then just, it was also going to include wraparound services, psychological counseling, drug rehab resources for individuals who are going through that, kind of financial supports. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is a lot of people in that area, which is going to be, it's originally going to be down by the kind of that area down by the 94 business loop, sort of the very northwest edge of Edison going towards the fairgrounds. Um, and we were reporting on that as kind of like, again, this is what happens when we as organizers can't quite cross the finish line and get the resources our people need. And in an unfortunate kind of postscript to this whole situation is this is I'm citing an article from WWT, but the HRI is now going to be selling the pods off at auction, which again these kind of small pod houses in what they this is from Executive Director Michelle Davis. HRI is hopeful that the pods will find a new home through the auction process. We chose this route after exploring a direct sale to other communities. We're eager to see the pods put to good use, whether as emergency shelters, recreational use, or other purposes, and to recoup our investment. When we bought the pods to Kalamazoo, we took a bold, creative step to tackle a serious need in a compassionate way. While that approach didn't pan out as expected, it did spark new ideas and new momentum community-wide to address houselessness. That's exciting and something we consider a win for the whole community, which I guess I know we always have to frame things as a, win or loss, but this is not a great thing that we could not, as a community, move forward with this project, which could have really been in some of the planning stages, as I mentioned, talking about a very intentional community with wraparound services. This could have been a really good model for how to approach and deal with the housing crisis, but again, failure to launch. And it is just, there's something innately depressing to hear that the pods that, I mean, in a different reality, they could be open right now. We're not going through the winter right now, but we are going through a weather crisis. We're having this episode when the heat index is 100 degrees out. There's going to be untold members of the community, both housed and houseless, who are going to be probably having to go to Bronson or Borges this weekend to deal with heat-related illness, or God forbid, actually pass away because of it. And we could have had at least 50 of these small pods, which had services and air conditioning. That would have been 50 people who would have been safe from this heat emergency. And now they have, well, there are cooling centers around town. I will again put that in the show notes as well, because this is going to be airing on Tuesday and it's still going to be really hot. So, but yeah,
So
it is.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but fam, I just want to shout out to the community, and give a shout out to everyone in the community who is doing cooling centers during this heat crisis. Like we have warming centers during the winter, and we have cooling centers during the summer. And I just want to shout out I want to shout out every community organization that is doing this. Y'all are doing the Lord's work, okay? Y'all are truly doing the Lord's work. Um, it's sad that we could not get some of these people who are unhoused into housing where they could be safe, where they could be, they could get some relief, right? Um, because of greed and people's attitudes, basically. And but shout out to all of the community members that are stepping up to do the Lord's work to make sure that people are not out here dying of heat stroke. Like I cannot salute you enough. I cannot. We cannot give you enough praise. Right. I think it was Tupac that said in Dear Mama, "There's no way we can pay you back, but my plan is to show you that I understand and that you are appreciated." That's what we appreciate y'all.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And just for those, um, excuse me. For those of you who might need some help finding a cooling center today, a couple of places that are you can check out. Ministry with Community is going to have their
Ministry
doors open
community.
from.
Oh,
Yep.
also shout out to Ministry community because they just fed a bunch of people. I think it was Sunday. It was
Yeah, yeah.
last week. Yeah. My mom was one of the chefs that was cooking back there. There was multiple chefs back there. I have my brother. Shout out to my brother. He also works there and was helping out. And one of my best friends is also works there, helping people in their time of need. So again, shout out to ministry. Again, shout out to the community members like ministry and community and others. Shout out to the public library. Y'all are out here doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, yeah, that's and their library. For those who need to know, they're open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ministry Community is going to be open from 6:30 to 4 today, and then the Gospel Mission also did say if temperatures exceed, I believe it was 95, they will be open to the public. If you're out, if you're
They
listening
need
out,
to they need to have that. What was it the downtown the what was it Arcadia? There was what's the expensive park that's downtown that has the water
uh,
system that
Arcadia Creek, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Arcadia Park. Dog, they should have that water system going on. Whenever it hits 90, they just need to have that water system going.
Oh yeah,
Just
no, hard
just
agree.
go.
Yeah,
Right. Like they just need to have that thing jumping.
yeah. One other thing, if you're out in Portage, there's also the Portage Public Library and the Portage Senior Center. That's over on at 203 East Center. They're going to be open from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So, places y'all can go to beat the heat. There are also going to be some open hydrants around town if you want to. Again, there is something really really great about like getting some cold
Hey,
water hitting you out
hey,
this heat, man.
hey,
Yeah,
we get it wherever we got it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We
Mhm.
get it however you get it. Oh, also, so that's your quick hit. I mean, we talked about a bit about it a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about these few stories because I wasn't here when I didn't hop on when these stories were breaking, but these stories I did want to talk about. Man, MAGA terrorism, right? We had a MAGA terrorist that killed two lawmakers, two uh Minnesota lawmakers, and he wanted to kill Tim he wanted to unalive Tim Waltz, right? And he got captured, right? Dressing up as
Mhm.
ICE, he dressed up like a fake ICE official, right? And then you had the
I
story in
think it
North
was
Philly.
just a fake cop, but I mean,
Yeah,
one
no, no,
doesn't of the other. Who knows? But yeah.
no, he was dressed like a fake officer, right? And then you had the story last week. I think early what was it, June 8th, of the dude in North Philly dressing up like a fake ICE officer and tying up a 50-year-old woman and robbing an auto store, right? He just got charged. I'm reading this from CBS Philly. 50-year-old man who impersonated immigration and custom enforcement officer in a robbery in North Philly. He's getting charged. He's getting charged with the DA announced on Monday that I'm not going to say his name because he doesn't deserve any credit. He tried to rob. He was in connection to a robbery in an automobile shop. Um, on the on six 650 600,000 block of Harberson Avenue in Mid-Fair, right? He tied up a 50-year-old woman. He got charged with robbery, weapon charges, terroristic threats, impersonation of a public servant, and other charges. And he came in with wearing a black baseball cap, leather gloves, tactical vest. He had security enforcement agent, um, and a black radio, pretending to be an ICE agent. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because also earlier, I think it was earlier this week, right? It was 4 days ago, where in from the New York Post, so this is June 17th, the Trump administration's 3,000 number that ICE agents were supposed to get their quota per day is taking their focus off of criminals and killing their morals, right? Now, shout out to Kyle Kalinske and Democracy Now! And Secular Talk, and the Majority Report and others who's talked about this topic already. But if you were to take the actual number of undocumented people, right, that has committed crimes, so we're using the right wing framing. I don't agree with it. We're using it just for the example. That's less than 1% of the American population, right? Of undocumented human beings that commit crimes. That's roughly 10,000 people. ICE, up to this point, has has hit over 100,000. I'm not good at math, but if so, that means 90,000, 90,000. That means that number of people has been has had their lives ripped apart because roughly only 10,000 people, if we're going by the right wing framing, has actually committed crimes. If we're going by their framing, that's 10,000 people, roughly. ICE hit 100,000 a few weeks ago. So that means 90,000 people have been arrested by ICE. Andy, if 90% of the work that you're doing is harming innocent people, or wait, we went to school. if you got a negative, if you only got 10%, you got 10% on your math test, right? That means you
Hmm.
failed, right?
Yeah,
You got
I believe so.
you right. 90,000 people, even if they're undocumented, even if they're undocumented, even if they're documented or whatever, 90,000 people had their lives ripped apart because of ICE. And they're continuing to do more than that. They're escalating because they can't make the justification that they're going after criminals anymore. They're just going after anybody who's black, brown, or indifferent that they believe is no longer in this country. At the same time, Trump was also took away the Trump administration was taking away citizenship from people from the Dominican Republic and from Haiti that's in this country, people from the islands. So that means so if you but again, who did they make an exception for? They was trying to make an exception for white South Africans to come to this country.
Hmm.
So they were making an exception for white South Africans because they believed in that white South African genocide, right? Again, I'm sorry, this is their logic, not ours, right?
Yeah.
Those immigrants they want to stay here. But the brown shirts, and that's what ICE is a bunch of brown shirts. They're going after hardworking human beings. They're going after children. Half of the story that's in the New York Post that I'm talking about, this is from June 17th, is talking about waiting for undocumented people to come out of their hearings just so they can arrest them. They've gone into churches, they've gone into supermarkets, they've gone into schools. They they deported children who had cancer, right?
Hmm.
Meanwhile, you have nutcases, right-wing nutcases, who are pretending to be police officers, who are pretending to be ICE agents, also harming Americans. So why am I bringing all those stories together? The reason why I'm bringing all those stories together is is twofold. One, if ICE is allowed to go after people because they think that they may or may not have their documents. How is this any different than 1800 America? Than the slavery days where they was like, show me your papers. How is that any different? The reason why I'm also bringing this up is because who are you empowering when those agents can act like this? You're empowering vigilantes. You're empowering right-wing nutcases who will then harm Americans. Ones who have papers and ones who don't. We all getting cooked. And this is my third thing that I also the reason why I wanted to bring it up. Why is the administration choosing certain immigrants that they would like to have come to this country?
Hmm.
Certain immigrants like from South Africa, like white South Africans, like Elon Musk, right? Why are they exclusively, loudly saying that they want those type of immigrants to come here? This is just food for thought. That's just food for thought. I don't. We already know those answers. We already know those answers. This is supposed to be a quick hit, but it was just my some of my food for thought. Things I want y'all to think about as we continue.
Just I did want to add a few things there to just thinking about some of the recent context that's come up. Again, Stephen Miller, who's in the Trump administration and has basically made ICE his personal pet project. A lot of what we are seeing is directly from him, and Stephen Miller is a unashamed white nationalist. he has talked about his desire to basically expunge the country of undocumented folks. In fact, what you're seeing, there's this back and forth for a few days where there was some pressure going on Trump from certain corporations about like, oh, you're basically scaring off our labor pool. You have to like ease up, hit the brakes a little bit. This made Stephen Miller very upset because his conception of how he wants to use ICE and deploy ICE is to he's been known to complain like, why aren't you guys out there at Lowe's, Home Depot? Why aren't you there where day laborers congregate? And his vision of how to use immigration customs enforcement stuff is again as an enforcement mechanism for white supremacy, straight up. He wants to use it to get people who are non-white out of the country. And a lot of what the media has done, especially the right wing media, has been this kind of equivocation of being undocumented with criminality. I think it's worth pointing out again. There's been many, many studies, even studies by the Cato Institute, which is like this right wing libertarian think tank, that have proven time and time again that undocumented people in the United States commit less crime than documented folks. Per capita as an average. It's very easy to understand why. It's very commonsensical. If you are undocumented, you have more incentive to stay out of trouble because you don't want to get deported. So,
Well, yeah,
it
yes,
yeah,
yes. There was multiple. To reinforce that point, I'm so sorry. The Cato Institute, the Cato Institute, and other studies have shown that undocumented people are 4 times less likely. Undocumented human beings in this country are 4 times less likely to commit crime than their native-born counterpart. The main reason why is because that one, they don't want to be deported back to their country. They don't want problems. They just want to make a better life for themselves. And when you think about it. You've had it's not even just not just the southern border, because most immigrants come to this country by flying into the country, right? You didn't heard America is a shining city on the hill. It's we can always make a better life for ourselves if we work harder here. You do all of that work to get here. Why? When you get here, why would you try to start doing crimes? Like I understand that, the Italian mob and other and the Irish mob when they got here, they were doing crimes, right? But they was immigrants too. But that's a totally different stereotype, right? But most immigrants when they come here, they just want a better life for themselves. Most undocumented people when they get here, they just want a better life for themselves and their families. It is counterintuitive for those people to commit crimes. Not saying that some don't, but it's a lot less than native born Americans. And most of the criminals, especially right now, is in the White House.
there,
Like if we're gonna keep it a stack, but
yeah. It's like, yeah, again, there's that principal contradiction. The president himself is felonious. And,
the the president and Elon Musk. Elon Musk should be in jail right now for the amount of things that he stole and hacked classified information from Americans with Doge. Like that man should be in prison. The cutting funding that went to aid workers to fight malaria and AIDS, the amount of people that have died and is going to die because of the funding cuts that Doge did that our president supported. Those there is a special place in hell for those kind of human beings that support that. There's a special kind of hell for you. And there's a
well,
special kind of
actually,
hell for those who did it.
I do have a quick update related to kind of the whole Doge thing and kind of the idea of trying to, uh, you know, uh, uh, play games with federal funding over ideology. We reported this Bridge, Michigan article a few weeks back about how the Trump administration was trying to withhold transportation funding to Michigan over immigration and DEI. And just this little bit of good news. So this was as of June 20th. Um, U.S. District Judge John McConnell Jr. sided with 20 states in a suit, including Michigan, suing the administration over a threat to withhold transportation funding from states that don't align with U.S. immigration enforcement and diversity and equity and inclusion policies. McConnell said the states have demonstrated they will face irreparable and continuing harm if forced to agree to the administration's immigration conditions in order to receive grant funding. It goes on to say the states face losing billions of dollars in federal funding, are being put in a position of relinquishing their sovereign right to decide how to use their own police officers, are at risk of losing the trust built between local law enforcement and immigrant communities, and will have to scale back, reconsider, or cancel ongoing transportation projects. Um, so I did want to say, yeah,
You
it's
remember when Gretchen Whitmer went up to the White House, right? You remember when Gretchen Whitmer went to the White House and thought that she could talk to Trump and end up being used as a pawn in his photo op,
mhm,
and they are still cutting funding to the state.
mhm,
How did that photo op work out for you?
yeah, yeah.
How did that
Yeah.
work out? Like,
Mm,
no, we do not capitulate to fascists. We do not. This is that is a prime example of you don't meet monsters where they are. You have them come to your playground. You have them come to you. You don't meet them, they come to you. Because when they come to you, they have to fight on your terms. They have to come to your terms. When you go and meet them, you're only helping them out.
yeah, exactly. And we talked a little bit about this too. Of course, Attorney General Dana Nessel was part of one of the people in this lawsuit. Um, I'm glad to see them doing something more useful than harassing college students. So, that's good. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah. But
Uh
there was another judge, and I can't remember the specific case, but they kind of they called the administration's bluff about like whole DEI thing. It was a Reagan appointed judge, who basically was trying to force them to explain what do you mean by DEI and like what so should we stand for you know uh, homogeneity and exclusion and inequity. Is that what we should stand for as the government? Like, what are you? Yeah, he's basically trying to force them to explain this catch-all term that is again, it's a nonsense term. It is the term that they've appropriated, much like the term woke, to just basically use as a substitute when they're saying we would like to do policies that are explicitly racist. And if you don't allow us to do that, we're going to financially penalize your federal funding or your states and all that stuff.
I want to like they're basically saying, hey, how in the best way possible can we screw y'all over while you all help us with our agenda? Like, think about this. Because I want people to truly think about this. You want to know the one thing that does not care about your political affiliation? Roads. Roads don't care. Roads don't care. The highway doesn't care. We have goods and services on tractor trailers and shipyards, trains, automobiles, planes, and everything. We've had 8 planes crash this year alone, right? Right? We we have seen that that our president does listen to those uh who fund his campaign. Businesses like Amazon need the roads to be fixed so they can ship goods and they can make money. Walmart needs the roads to be good so that people can come to their shop and come to their stores and spend their money, right?
Hmm.
Who does this benefit? It doesn't benefit Republicans, because even if you live in rural areas, you still need your roads to be good. Because just in case there's a storm or something crazy happens, you need to be able to get on the road so you can get to a hospital. This doesn't help anyone. This doesn't help his constituents. This definitely isn't ponying the Democrats. This is just hurting everyone. For what?
To own the libs, Lawrence, of course.
Like,
Yeah.
it does not make logical sense. Not in any way, shape, or form. I don't get it. Like,
It's there. I think there's it kind of goes back to this logic, particularly with like the really hardcore MAGA base that, you know, there's like some awareness that some of these policies will hurt them directly, but it's worth it because it's going to it's like what Trump offers people is not necessarily. I mean, he will say like I'm going to make things better, but I mean, and a lot of people even in his own space don't necessarily trust that, or that's not why they anchor themselves to Trump. It's that he is going to punish the people that they don't like. Your enemies are my enemies, and yeah, there is an attitude among like some of the like just most brainwashed people in the cult that like, I will cut off my own nose to spite your face if that's what's going to happen. Like I will let the roads go to crap if I can punish you for engaging in quote unquote DEI or whatever catch all word the far right is using these days to mean empathy and understanding of like history and racism.
I yeah, there ain't nothing else I'm gonna add to that. I that is just, yeah.
Of course,
Let's
that is a
I do have a good quick hit. I do have a good quick hit.
oh
This isn't about Michigan
oh
though.
yeah,
This isn't about Michigan.
that's all
Um,
right. I think we're
la
about to move into the national stuff anyway. So.
yeah. I do have a quick hit. This isn't about Michigan. This is about New York though. Shout out to New York. Love New York.
Hey,
You know what I mean? Zoran. Last polling I showed, because he's running for mayor of New York City. Last poll I saw, he's beating Cuomo. Now I know that this is only in Michigan, but we gotta tell our brothers and sisters, our family, and our non-binary family, and everybody else in between in New York, because they have ranked choice voting. Put Zoran as number one. I don't care about the rest of your top five, and do not rank Cuomo. That Do not rank Cuomo. Cuomo is one of the main reasons why Democrats suck today. Is one of that guy never needs to be in our body politics ever again in life. And one way Americans can make sure that happens is if Zoran wins. Zoran needs to win. He needs to win. And it
you know,
looks like it's looking good. It's looking good right now. It looks like he might do it. He might pull it off.
so actually, I want to comment a little bit on this story. Kind of what is instructive about the way that I'd say both the mainstream press and the Democratic Party is interfacing with this election, and it really is. This is a situation that really exposes a lot of the moral bankruptcy of the centrist position because there we have these op-eds coming out directly against Zoran, talking about how he is going to be uh, um, a disaster for New York City, and that his policies don't make sense. And a lot of very like capitalist, um, these very capitalist talking points. And we've also got this idea of Zoran being something that the Democratic Party needs to stop. I've even seen op-eds talking about how this is going to push the party in a negative direction. It's in the, like again, it's this um this idea that Democrats lost the last election because of wokeness or whatever, and not because of genocide in Gaza or its abject failure in maintaining um, the social safety net that got built up post COVID. You have a politician in Mamdani who is actually trying to push back towards those things, and the Democratic Party again, this is at a time where the president is trying to use his powers to, extrajudicially take control of major population centers. We've got vigilantes killing more progressive politicians out in Minnesota. We've got a war. A war just started. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit here. And what is the Democratic Party? Where are their priorities at? We've got to make sure Zoran Mamdani doesn't become the mayor of New York. And this all becomes all the more disgusting because who is the great neoliberal hope in this street? It's Andrew Cuomo, a disgusting human being who has been proven. He got thousands of senior citizens killed early in the pandemic by playing fast and loose about the rules of COVID exposure and exposing hundreds of senior citizens in New York State to COVID-19. This was proven. And then, of course, we've got the dozens of allegations against him for, sexual harassment and
13
violence.
credible 13 credible women accused him of sexual harassment, yeah, of 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 things a mayor should not be doing. Like I'm
But
surprised. I'm surprised that man wasn't at one of Diddy's parties. Like, you know what I'm saying?
maybe.
Like no, yeah.
Yes.
Hashtag no Diddy. But you know what I'm saying? Um, dog, yeah. We see the Democratic Party. This goes back to the Democratic Party being extraordinarily bad at everything. Like you have them going after David Hogg, right? You remember you saw what they did to David Hogg, right?
Yeah.
That they got this man, they canceled a vice president, the vice president of the Democratic National Committee, because he said we should primary do nothing Democrats who's been helping fascists. And the Democratic Party said, no, we want everybody who does
Yeah.
nothing so
David
that we can
Hogg
do
quickly
nothing.
became public enemy number one because he committed the cardinal sin in Democratic
Uh,
Party politics, which is like, you know, don't
yeah,
rock the boat. And
yeah, right.
yeah.
So you saw that. And then you have another, you know what I'm saying? You got another Democratic socialist with Zoran, right? I'm messing up his name. I'm so sorry.
Rangers.
And what
No,
does
no.
and
Zordon,
what does
no.
he do? And what does he do? He's just saying the policies that his constituents want. That's what he's doing. He's not doing anything else. He's not doing anything egregious. He's just not for the BS that got us here. And what does the Democratic Party and what does the Democrat establishment want? They want someone that brought us the garbage that got us Trump.
They want somebody who, like, in a more sane political moment, would have been shipped off to the proverbial, like Napoleon. Send him to the island. Do not let this man get involved in politics ever again. He is, again, persona non grata. Yet, again, when faced with a choice between again, a very ethical, democratic socialist, and again, a serial, as a just morally bankrupt individual. They're yanking him off of the island, and he's getting endorsements from people like Bill Clinton. It is absolutely nuts, and especially right now when the Democratic Party is again, always making hay about the president and his moral failings, and which is true, while simultaneously lifting up this caricature of corrupt beltway politics with a horrible, horrible rap sheet. It it's oh god, it is so insane, and it is also just a really clear example of how the mainstream media tries to set the agenda by pushing, again, people like this who are just like vile and morally bankrupt against somebody with these policies, these populist policies that would actually help the working class.
Yeah, like it is tragic. Like that's such a tragic story that we could keep going on, but I know that we have other stories we have to do. But yeah, bro, like uh the show me show me who you fight the most. Like show me the people that you constantly are fighting the hardest against, and I will show you your priorities. You know what I'm saying? And I will show you your priorities. And that's what the Democrats are. Their priorities is not trying to actually fight back against this fascism. Their priorities is trying to get back to the status quo where they were in power.
And oh yeah, opposing like social democrats and social democracy. Um,
Yeah,
again, well, I think it might be a good idea to talk about what happened over the weekend. Some of y'all may have seen that sometime in the middle of the night, Donald Trump as an Operation Mushroom Hammer or something. I don't know, but the United States military has officially bombed several nuclear sites in Iran as of a few days ago. There has been some limited retaliation from Iran on some nearby U.S. military bases. No casualties reported, and interestingly, both countries telegraphed their attacks in advance. Basically, I kind of warned each other that they were about to do it. Um, some of the reports we have on the ground is that the U.S. strikes really didn't do all of that much. Some gates were destroyed, blown up. The actual facilities were not really damaged in any substantial way. But again, the internet has gone crazy over the last couple of days. A lot World War III is trending on Twitter. Um,
Doug,
and
yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna kind of close that thought. And again, there's a lot of different dimensions to the story we're gonna dig on, but um, yeah, it does kind of speak to the political moment that we're all just kind of waiting with bated breath to see how and when this is going to escalate even further. Um, which is again has actually caused some issues in Trump's own base. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. As you may remember, one of the things that they ran on was that Trump is a non-interventionist. He's a quote unquote peace candidate, and
Yeah,
even
the
just
peace candidate that offensively bombed the country that didn't attack us. Yeah,
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 yeah. So I'll go ahead. Okay, I'm going to hand the mic to you, Lawrence. If you could just kind of give us
man.
some of your
Okay,
responses.
man. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. I might be fuzzy on the timeline, right? Israel bombs Iran, right?
Mhm.
Israel bombs Iran first, right? we're not. That happens after Israel bombs Iran. Iran strikes back because, of course, you're going to hit somebody that hits you back, right? After that, America decides that it would be a good idea to jump into this war. Now, I'm old enough to remember Bibi Netanyahu saying that if we invaded Iraq, it would be such a boon and a benefit to the region that it would help us in our effort to eventually toppling Iran too, because Iran at that time was months away from building a nuclear bomb. I remember seeing him come to America and say that, and that was after 9/11. That was around that time. I remember seeing that, right? Iran still didn't get a nuclear weapon. We invaded
They've been
other.
weeks away from a nuclear weapon for about 30 years or so.
Yeah, they've been.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, they've been weeks away from a nuclear weapon longer than we've been alive, bro. Lo- Longer than we've been alive. Still no nuclear weapon, not even to this day. But America decides that they want to jump into a fight, into a quagmire that Israel started, because Israel been wanting us to bomb Iran and attack Iran on their behalf for decades. And we're just like, and now President Joffrey just so happens to be like, you know what? We there now. We there now. You know, we gonna be in it. We gonna get on that with you. But it ain't a feature song. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
This is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen a president do in my life. And we lived through Trump's first term and George W. Bush.
Hmm.
George W. Bush. We lived through George W. Bush sitting for 12 minutes after being heard that the country was under attack. We've seen President Joffrey in his first four terms, right?
Hmm.
Biden with his gas, just all the things that people have talked about that have been absolute tragedy. This is the worst thing. This is worse than I could even imagine our president doing. And this is worse than that. Like, no, dog, it's absolutely unequivocally horrible that he chose to do this. And anybody who is cheerleading, who says that they're America first, when we are jumping into a war that Israel started to benefit Israel, not benefit America, but to benefit Israel, you're not America first. You are not pro peace. You are not. You are not. You are everything that you have lied about. If you are on the right wing, you say that this is a good idea, or this is something that you want, or you back this president. He offensively attacked a country that did not attack us. He should be impeached. He has broken international law. Like, forget American law right now. What Trump did in bombing Iran broke international laws. He should be in The Hague. He should be impeached. He should be out of power. This is not a joke. This is a five-alarm fire.
Yeah. Just to kind of respond to a couple of things there. The interesting thing about I've been hearing a lot the phrase "this is like Iraq" all over again. And me and Lawrence are of the age we were teenagers when The Iraq War was going down, and I've got to say, like, this is not necessarily the same thing because I think back to those days, and again, we were just talking about kind of making fun of George W. Bush's mental acumen, but um, for those too young to remember, the lead up to the first Iraq War was like a months long propaganda campaign. All of the mainstream news networks and big newspapers were in on it. You had the administration coming out once a week with mostly fabricated, but also a very
Oh,
thorough
oh,
and mostly fabricated case for invading Iraq over WMDs.
oh,
Colin Powell leveraged it. Yeah,
yellow cake uranium, bro.
yeah,
They
yeah.
had yellow cake.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, Colin Powell famously like leveraged his reputation to go on like in front of the whole world. He hold up, little bottle, yellow cake. We got it. It's he's building the nukes. Oh my gosh! And it was only after months and months and months of like trying to massage the American public through propaganda that the invasion of Iraq actually happened. Now, what's happening this week is complete 180. Like 2 weeks ago, Trump was talking about wanting to be the big deal maker and negotiator, and we're going to go in. And Tulsi Gabbard in March, during this very, the administration that is going on right now, said that Iran was not in a position to be developing nuclear weapons. Over the course of a weekend, we do a complete 180. Oh yeah, they're developing nukes, and we got to stop it. Basically, just like yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Chelsea's over the CIA, right?
I think national secure. Hold on. Tulsi
Yeah,
Gabbard. Um,
she's
I don't
she's a
think
part
I
of
don't think
national.
she's CIA though. So,
No, she's part of the national security state, right?
well, she is. Yeah, she is currently serving as the director of national intelligence. That's right. So
Right.
close, close. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the director of national intelligence says that they that Iran is not close to having nuclear weapons. Yet we strike them anyway. And then we're surprised when they strike an American military base. That's like you going into a bar, hitting someone in the face, and being shocked and chagrined that they're going to swing at you back. Go to your neighbor. Go try that on your neighbor. Try going to your neighbor and smacking the bejesus out of them and see if they are not going to hit you back. I I have to teach this to
It was
elementary.
a preemptive slap, Lawrence.
It was a like dog. I have nieces and nephews. I have I, I have nieces and nephews where I try to teach them conflict resolution. I have They are in elementary school, bro. They have better reasoning than our president. They understand that, yeah, if I hit them, they're going to hit me back, and I have to defend myself. I shouldn't be hitting someone if I don't want to get hit back. Like, what even, okay, I, I want to game this out. What outside, I know this answer, but what do we benefit invading or attacking Iran when it took us 21 years to get out of Afghanistan and Iraq? Children that was born during 9/11 are old enough to buy alcohol, was old enough to buy alcohol by the time we got out of those wars. And Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. How does that benefit us? The only thing that it benefits is the expansion of Greater Israel, which is what Bibi Netanyahu and his administration, the the governmental body of Israel want. They want to expand in the region. And that's the only thing that this does. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't help anyone else. This only helps the greater state of Israel, the of Israel expanding. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting, something that's been really interesting about kind of the media presentation of this is there has definitely been a big rift in MAGA world. Those who thought he was a non-interventionist, people like Steve Bannon are really crying foul. Like Tucker
But
Carlson,
they but they're already walking that back. But
they're
they're already
already walking.
walking
Yeah,
all of that.
a lot of them are already walking that back. But because yeah, you're already starting to see some of the big MAGA influencers kind of pretzel logic their way into supporting, but some of them haven't. And it remains to be seen what kind of influence this is going to have on the kind of the rank and file everyday conservative who has basically been trained over the last 20 years to understand Donald Trump is like a quote unquote non-interventionist. And it is more likely than anything that this is going to escalate and bring us into a bigger conflict, which, as you mentioned, is again um, really only benefiting Israel. And at this point, yeah, it's I was referencing the buildup to the invasion of Iraq, and what's fascinating with this case is like whereas the buildup to the invasion of Iraq was a coordinated propaganda campaign that took the better part of like 9 months. This is all happened in the span of a weekend. And it says something about the degree to which the government, because I was like, it's crazy that 80% of Americans do not want to go to war with Iran. There was a lot more. They worked much harder, say in Iraq, with manufacturing the consent of the U.S. population, and almost kind of, I think it speaks to the sort of the authoritarianism ism where we're currently at. It's the government basically saying, "We're going to do this. What are you going to do about it?" They don't feel like they need to be bothered to try to manufacture consent for this newest conflict. Um, and yeah, as you said, Iran is this is any strategist who thinks this is going to somehow be easy, or one that I've heard is that the Iranian population are going to like overthrow Khomeini based on like their own longstanding grievances is an absolute and abject fool. Any You do not need to be a military or a geopolitical genius to understand that when people are being attacked, it basically has a rally around the flag effect. And we've covered stories in the past about like there was a big feminist uprising in Iran just about like 2 years ago. And, there is a lot of dissatisfaction with the Iranian government, but to watch Bibi Netanyahu like try to send a message, overthrow your dictator and let us liberate you. It's like, you know who I think they might hate more than their government? It might be the government that is lobbing bombs on them and has been committing a genocide over the last span of last 2 years. They might have a little bit more hate towards them. Just a wild guess. Um, and yeah, of course, again, Iran is much bigger. They've been preparing for this conflict for years. It is going to be for all the neocons over the years and again, it has been a long time. Going back to like, I think it was it John McCain did that funny bomb, 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 Iran uh, bits. But they've been salivating about this for years, and it's like, man, this is a monkey's paw situation. If you get it, you're going to get some smoke because Iran is very
Doc,
big. They've
Doc,
been preparing for this for a long time. They're not going to go quietly. It's quagmire of all
no,
quagmire.
you might get what you want, but you may not want what you get. Because think about this. Do you think China or any of the other countries, if they see us bomb Iran, are not going to want to jump in and try to help Iran? Do we honestly think that you know we You remember the global sanctions, the sanctions that the other countries did with us, right? When we put sanctions on the world, they put sanctions on us back and how it crashed the economy, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember that. What do you think is going to happen again if the other countries want to jump in because of our shenanigans in Iran? Like, it's the reason why people are saying this is World War III is because people are going to be like, oh man, they're they are attacking all of these countries that did not attack us. What's going to stop America from doing that to us?
Mhm. That's
They don't care
actually a
about
really
global.
big yeah, that's a really big point, especially with when we're talking about what this is ostensibly all about, nuclear weapons. Um, and just to put a fine point on it, so Iran has actually really gone out of their way not to develop nukes. They're keeping their enrichment at 60. You need 60 is like that's where to develop it for civilian use. You need to go up to 80 before you can actually develop weapons. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but this is just some basic homework on this. And they have a fatwa against the development of nuclear weapons, which again, in it is a theocratic state, and that is again, that is the highest law there is.
But
Now,
every
ask you this.
every nuclear agency that has checked what they're doing has said that they were following the international laws on enriched uranium and what they were doing. They were following the nuclear deal that President Obama put in place until Trump threw it away. This is
So,
another
yeah,
thing. This is another thing where 47, 45, and 47 has made the problem and is now trying to fix the problem that they made. This is like this is like kicking in your door. This is like kicking in the door at your house and then being surprised that now you have to fix it. You just kicked it in. What do you think you're gonna have to do? You're just gonna leave it hanging? It's just gonna be
yeah.
hanging on its hinges now. That's what we doing.
I
That's what we
mean,
doing out here.
if you're in the Iranian government right now, I think you'll be looking at how the American negotiating position changes like the wind. You're getting attacked now from two nuclear powered superpowers, or at least one big nuclear superpower, and then it's um, you know, uh, smaller stepbrother. And
Who also
what
has nuclear weapons.
what incentive does that give you to make sure that your government does not develop nuclear weapons? You might be looking around. It's like, you know what? You know who America never bombs? America never bombs Russia. They never bomb China. They don't bomb North Korea, a relatively small country with a much smaller footprint. I wonder why that is. Hmm. And it's
Oh no,
so.
and you remember Libya, right? Libya gave up all their weapons too. And what happened?
Mhm.
The leader of Libya got sodomized with a bayonet and overthrown. If you don't think that other countries are not looking at how we have dealt with people before, and like, yeah, this is America's this is what America does, you are sadly mistaken.
Yeah, and it does show what a destabilizing force U.S. is, and I'm not just speaking about Trump either. This also, again, both all sides of the political duopoly have a lot of blame when it comes to U.S. imperialism because this destabilizing force we are creating the conditions that are pushing back against what has been a historic, a more recent historic trend of trying to, uh, again, the struggle to, for nuclear abolition. We've got many countries signed on, a nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Even countries that are ideologically aligned with that are looking at the belligerence of the U.S. empire, the way that we have empowered Israel to just do a genocide with no consequences, and they are rethinking about like, is this a practical moral stance to have at this time? We are being driven away from again, the fight to abolish nuclear weapons directly because of a belligerent empire that, in what I think is it might be its death throes, are trying to pick fights that they cannot finish.
Pretty much, pretty much. Um,
And I don't. Is there any much else you have to say? We're gonna, of course, be updating on the story as it goes. But do you have any other thoughts on
not
the
at all.
situation in Iran?
Nah, not at all.
I did want to mention,
I'm good.
yeah. I did want to mention too. This is a story because one of the other aspects to this, and when the exchanges first started between Iran and Israel, I think there was almost like kind of a oh, just maybe, just maybe this will distract them a little bit from genociding Palestinians. That has not been the case. In fact, it's we've really been seeing some of those attacks escalate because again, the world and the community and the media are focused now on what's going on in Iran. Um, and yeah, what again, we're still having these um, these massacres happening at food aid stations happen with alarming regularity. I wanted to read a little bit from this article from Left Voice that kind of goes into our complicity, the United States complicity in this. There's an article from Daniel Nath. U.S. mercenaries are helping the IDF murder starving people in Gaza. And we need to understand just like our complicity in what's going on because we've basically the United States and Israel have blocked credible international organizations like the World Food Program and the World Central Kitchen from operating either through declarations or by literally attacking workers. Workers at the World Central Kitchen were attacked by IDF soldiers at least twice, and now they were basically being starved of resources. And something that's happened in recent months is um, a very new organization called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has been placed in charge of distributing aid. The GHF is basically is a functionary of the IDF and these kind of U.S. mercenary companies. Um, and just to give you a little bit of background on that, um, in 2024, Yotam Hochin, an assistant to a key IDF general, published an article in a military journal arguing that Israel should manage the distribution of aid using non-state contracted companies to displace existing international aid agent organizations. Philip Riley, the head of the CIA in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2009, later a vice president of Constellus, the merger of Blackwater and several other U.S. mercenary firms, met throughout 2024 with those officials. And in 2025, Riley founded a company called Safe Reach Solutions with investment from private wealth firm McNally Capital. The GHF charity contracted this firm, incorporated 1 month before itself, to manage its operations. Again, this just stinks of like a lot of that kind of soft power clandestine work that, especially like the CIA has a pretty sticky history of getting involved with. But just to go on a little more, again, all of the international organizations are decrying it as basically an IDF, a cooperative IDF and U.S. tool to control aid as a method of warfare. Doctors Without Borders warned that the GHF scheme would entrench the Israeli occupation, conditioning life-saving assistance on displacement and compliance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we've got these stories coming out almost every week, couple days of these aid stations providing the bare minimum of food, and people seeking aid being met with live ammo, assault rifles, flashbang grenades, pepper spray, etc. And it's just important, I think, to really underscore, this is going on right now. This is still going on. While everyone's eyes have turned towards Iran, Um, the the IDF, with the full complicity, both strategy and the actual like logistical uh, facilitation of this stuff, is still carrying out these atrocities in Gaza in a really just again duplicitous way. Because Lawrence, you remember the Israeli government was getting a ton of criticism from the international community for doing what was obviously a starvation campaign against the Palestinian people. So all of a sudden, this
oh,
aid
you
or
mean the collective punishment?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, just like almost like out of thin air, there's this new aid organization that drops in at a very convenient time to kind of put a fig leaf over it and tell the international community, see, no, we're facilitating aid. We sure are. While again, people are given moldy sacks of flour and being shot at on a whim when they seek it out.
I so here's the thing. First, I just want to be thankful that Israel didn't kill Greta Thunberg and the other people that was on the flotilla trying to bring aid to Palestinians because they have shot and killed activists and freedom fighters uh, and uh, and just good-hearted human beings from trying to be good-hearted human beings, right? Um, the fact that we all know that what Israel is doing is a genocide. We've been watching them do it for over a year now. We understand that what they have been doing is trying to expand their territory, and we have watched in horror as Israel has killed journalists, international aid workers, doctors, nurses, children, and parents in a place where they control the air, water, and internet. It is inhumane, to say the least. It is disgusting, to say the least. And everybody who claims that to support Israel in this right should be ashamed of themselves because you cannot justify what they're doing. That does not justify what October 7th. That does not justify what Hamas did. That does not justify anything, the things that happened beforehand that Hamas and Israel has done towards each other. This does not justify. This does not justify in any way, shape, or form any of the other actions that has taken place. I cannot tell you. I can't tell you that you should not respond when you're attacked. I can tell you when you've gone too far. And for anybody who believes that Israel has not gone too far and that they should go farther, or you believe that they're being nice, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should absolutely be ashamed of yourself. What Israel is doing is wrong, and it's a genocide, and we all have to call it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think I want to leave or end the show today with some good news. Just yeah, we talk about some really serious stuff. Mahmoud Khalil is home. He is out of detention, ICE detention. He's back home in New York with his new family. He just met his newborn infant at the airport in Newark over the weekend. Um, and I think we all need to like take heart in this. We all, a lot of attention is always focused on like the judges and the provincial decisions, and I do want people to understand, if people hadn't paid attention to this story, if people hadn't been been just advocating for Mahmoud's release last several months. If people hadn't shown the spotlight on the pro-Palestinian resistance on these campuses. If you didn't get a chance to see it, I'm not sure if you can see it in the United States. Or no, it's not one. It's not the band. The encampments. I got a chance to see it at Celebration Cinema a couple weeks ago, but Mahmoud plays a really vital role in that. You get to see him basically again all of this shot before he was kidnapped by ICE, but you got to see him act as like the main student negotiator to the university while the anti-genocide protests were going at full strength. And we should all really be inspired by his release and kind of show us, again, there's a lot of reason to be kind of sad and morose about all the news that's going on, but there's also reason to hope. And hope uh, lives when we see people who are out there really fighting, fighting in these struggles, get their freedom because people demanded it, because people demanded it. And, again, all of God's blessings out to Mahmoud and his family. Lawrence, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, like he should have never gotten taken in the first place. I'm glad that he is back home. ICE is a bunch of Nazis. Yeah, and if you're upset about that, they are. They're a bunch of fascist, authoritarian Nazis that are going after people that are just trying to make a better life for themselves. When AOC and others in 2008 and 2000, not in 2008, when AOC and them came out, when the Justice Democrats first came out and they were saying we need to abolish ICE, I need everybody who said that that was a bad idea to apologize. I need
Mhm. Oh
everybody
yeah,
who was in the media who
it's
said
too
that this was
extreme. Oh.
crazy. That's so extreme. I need all y'all to apologize, get fired, and never work in media again. Uh, because this is the reason why I say that. Do you think they've already proven that they're not going to stop at criminals? They're not going to stop at undocumented people. You don't think they're? We saw these same tactics during Black Lives Matter, that they black bag people and took them to black sites. We know this. It's been documented. You don't think that this is going to happen to you? You don't think, given a chance, that this won't happen to you? You have lost your mind if you think it will not happen to you, because it will.
Yeah, and that goes even for a lot of even like uh, a lot of like even organizations on the right who often turn to be natural allies of the current fascist movement. They're getting particularly surveilled by the government right now. And they're talking about speaking particularly like militia organizations and that sort of thing. Um, and yeah, so just like to emphasize, even if, like, let's say if you're like maybe you're a right winger, you're listening to our show, maybe you're doing some ops. Um, Government will come for you too the moment they decide you have become either like ideologically inconvenient or you're not going with the program in the way that they want you to. Um, this is again the jailing of Mahmoud, and again, there were a lot of stories, particularly early on, Trump administration, of people being napped just for expressing anti-genocide sentiment. That is not a precedent that you want to tinker with, and it doesn't matter whether you were born in the United States or not. Um, it is interfacing with some of the ugliest parts of U.S. history. Things like McCarthyism comes to mind, and yeah, it goes back to the famous poem. First they came for the communists and so on and so on and so forth, and eventually they'll get to you if you are seen as a problem. And one minute you might be an ally, the next not. These fascists are very fickle. Just go go ask Mr. Elon Musk. Um, but it is worth underscoring that it is great that he's out, and
I
it
I
is
I, Yeah, yeah. We just need the rest of the 100,000 to get out as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I don't think I have too much else. We're kind of closing in on the end of the show. Lawrence, do you have anything else before we wrap up?
Um, uh, Free Palestine, free the people in Gaza, protect your peace, love and liberation for all of our people. Um, uh, the thing that's not being said is that there's African Israelis or like black and brown people that are in Israel. And like because I consider myself a Pan-Africanist, so I want to say that I want nothing but peace, love, and blessings for those people. I don't want them to be caught up in this war. I don't. I hope that they are not serving in the Israeli military, and I want nothing but peace, love, and blessings for those people, for all of God's people, right?
Mhm.
Also, at the same time, you know what I'm saying? They're part of, I don't want them on the front line or being a part of the Israeli army because you are also part of a settler colonial project in Palestine, right? Hurting other
Yep.
black and brown people. So it
Similar a similar dynamic. A lot of the ICE agents, especially around LA, are you see some of the videos. A lot of them are Hispanic in origin, and like
right.
there's been a lot of dialogue about like how much is that paycheck worth? He's like, dude,
Yeah,
yeah.
fam, like I I don't want our people, I don't want disenfranchised people to be a part of the system that will profit off of the disenfranchisement of others, especially other minority and disenfranchised people. Um, I mean, there's so many other stories. There's so many other stories that we haven't talked about. Um, the big beautiful bill. The big beautiful bill was trash. It's still trash. It's going to be trash. It's going to wreck our economy, just like how the tariffs wrecked our economy. We haven't got a chance to talk about that or talk about the tariffs. Um, man, there's so many stories that we haven't had a chance to get to. Hopefully we'll be doing another show, another recording later this week. But yeah, I'll save it for then.
Yeah, and I definitely would like to do a deeper dive on the beautiful BS bill. But all right, thank you all for tuning in. We will keep you updated on all the things going on here in Kalamazoo, state of Michigan, and the rest of the world from a working class perspective. Everybody out there, till next time, keep on fighting for that revolution solution.